20 minutes before 7 this morning, the Progressive Student Movement says they are holding the Department of Basic Education accountable for allegedly exploiting learners from poor communities as they have not received any learning material such as textbooks and stationery. According to the movement, these learners are in Limpopo, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and the Northwest. They are also perturbed by the fact that more than 20,000 learners are displaced in Gauteng and say the department expects poor and illiterate parents to register their children online. The Progressive Student Movement has declared war against the Department of Basic Education. Joining us now from our Pretoria studio is Kabelo Ntekiso, I beg your pardon. He's the Secretary General of the Progressive Student Movement. Kabelo, good morning to you.
Good morning, Leon.
All right, and in studio with me, I've got Elijah Mhlangu, the national spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. He's here to respond to the movement's allegations. Good to have you, Elijah. Thanks very much for being with us. All right, Kabelo, let's begin with you once again, just to start off this conversation. So we are saying, and this is according to a release in a statement from you, that you've declared war with the Department of Basic Education. Just outline the reasons as to why you have declared this.
No, look, Leon, let me start by saying first, it's not only the Department of Basic Education, but then we've declared war against the South African Parliament, who have rendered the educational system of the country useless by firstly appointing an illiterate president, which is a bad image to the society and the educational sector. But coming to the Department of Basic Education, these people, Leon, they care less about the educational system of the learners from the poor rural areas. They've been exploiting our learners. Our learners are there without textbooks. They are there without books. Our learners are learning in muddy schools. They've done nothing, and there's no exercise they're taking to respond to the challenges that learners are facing. So at large, the Department of Education cares less about the education of our learners. Go to, for an example, go to Letlakaning, go to Chakala Stans, go to Klep 4. Learners are still walking 25 kilometers to access basic education. The Department of Education has done nothing to address that. Go to Skukuni. Learners are there without textbooks. Learners don't have enough teachers, no adequate teachers. So the Department of Education has done nothing with that besides using COSAs to fight their battles and defend themselves. So as Progressive Student Movement, we won't let our learners be exploited by this system. We are here to represent our learners, and will do everything that it takes to ensure that our learners have got anything and every resource to conquer and become better people.
All right. Okay, Kabelo, thank you. I think you've put your argument forward nicely. Elijah, I mean, your immediate reaction to this?
To start with, I'm not aware of this organization. I'm hearing of it for the first time. We engage all our stakeholders in the sector on issues that they wish to raise, and we are always able to share information, share the progress that we are making as a sector, and we are also able to talk to them about some of the challenges that we are facing. And at the end of every session, we always urge people to play a constructive role in bringing quality education to South Africans. If I can respond to some of the issues that he's talking about, the government is very serious about poor children and poor communities in South Africa. That's why we've come up with a proper package for South African learners, particularly those that come from rural areas. That's why we feed 9.6 million children a day, a free meal at school when they get there. We have a learner transport program through which we transport our learners from home to school and back every day. We do that in provinces, and it takes place efficiently. We are not able to cater for everyone, but the majority of the learners that qualify for that scheme, they benefit from that. As far as the delays in stationery, yes, there are challenges in Limpopo, where a tender was finalized in December, and the suppliers only started delivering early in January, but progress has been made. And in fact, we were in Sekhukhune yesterday. The Minister and MEC were in Sekhukhune yesterday to look at some of the challenges that are happening there. So to say that we are doing nothing, that's upset, outrageous, and unfortunate. It does show that people don't know what we are doing. The best thing that they could do is to approach the department, have a constructive engagement. We'll be able to share what we are doing.
Okay, Elijah, I'm going to just address it one by one. Let's first ask Kabelo, how big is the progressive student movement? And have you ever had any contact with the Department of Education, Basic Education? Because Elijah here is saying that he's never heard of you guys.
No, it's funny. It's funny to hear what Elijah is saying. It's a mediocre because we've been engaging the Department of Basic Education. A few weeks back, we had a meeting with a team that was tasked by the ministry, led by Mr. Tingani Ngobeni. So I don't know what is Elijah saying. Maybe he's speaking from hallucinations. But then we are a national organization. And then I must correct Elijah in saying that the Department of Education is mainly focusing on the issue of matrics and stuff. But forget the basic foundation, which is the ECT. They pay no attention to the ECT. The Social Development Audit of 2013, Leanne, agreed with us and concurred that basic education is not monitored and is poorly overseen. So the Department of Education has done nothing with that, besides making noise about the fake matric result they have announced that are fake. Those digits, those numbers are fake. If you can go back with the research that you have studied, together with all the stakeholders that we've been working with, those numbers are fake. The Department of Education must stop misleading people and must stop misleading media at large, because we're here, we're looking at them and we're tracing each and every step they're taking. They must not think that if they can fool organizations like Bokosas, they can come and fool us. Yeah. No, we do our researches. We do our researches very well.
May I ask you just very quickly, how big is the progressive student movement? You say it is a national organization, but how many members do you have? How big is it, and how long have you been around for?
The progressive student movement was formed in the 14th of January 2016. Currently, in the office of the secretary, we have around 27,432 memberships and counting. This is a national movement operating in all the provinces.
27,000 members, and you've never heard of them, Elijah?
No, I have not.
You've never heard of them?
Honestly speaking, I'm aware of all the stakeholders in the sector.
Yeah.
I attend most, if not all, of the meetings.
Okay.
So, I mean, for me, it's not really about the organization. Well, let's look at the issues. What are they raising? Because remember,
I think it is about it, because that was your first point. You almost dismissed their claims due to the fact that you didn't know the organization, so
of
they
course,
weren't relevant.
I don't know the organization, but what I'm saying is that anyone has a right to raise any issue about education. Certainly. And we focus on the issues, irrespective of whoever they are. So whether the organization exists or it doesn't exist, but let's look at what they're saying, and then we tackle the issue. So I don't have a problem with that.
I don't think in a way we can dispute what Kabelo is saying in certain areas, because there are schools around, particularly the rural schools in South Africa, that are really struggling. And I mean, when you look at the pass rates at some of these schools and the conditions in which these learners have to be expected to pass in is almost impossible, and they defy the odds by passing. I think when you said that going into the department and engaging the department, you'll really get an understanding. In my interpretation is going to the schools and seeing the conditions of the learners, then you'll get a better understanding. Don't you agree in a way?
No, there are two things. The first thing is that we go to schools. One of our functions is monitoring and support. We go to schools. Yesterday we were in a school. The day before we were in a school. We go around the country, visiting schools, checking what is happening. We look at the results, do an analysis, go to underperforming schools, find out what is happening, how can we assist you. That's the first thing. But if there is an entity that wishes to engage on issues affecting the sector, the first place to go is the Department of Basic Education. Ask what is happening in the sector, why do we have so many challenges, and then we'll be able to share with you what is happening in the sector. And from that, you will be able to decide on the next course of action. But to just make a wild allegation like that, it's not fair, because some of the statements that have made are unfortunately false. Here, if you talk about the success of a school, for example, what is the role of an SGB? What is the role of parents in that community? Because the Schools Act places that responsibility squarely on their corner. It says you have a responsibility to make sure that this school is fully functional on a daily basis. Does that happen? That's what we need to also look at.
Yeah. Kabelo, I'm reading a statement that came from the organization. It's an article, I think it's from the City Press, focusing in on some of the schools that you are speaking about. And one of them that's brought up as an example is Nsizwe Senior Secondary School, it's a rural Eastern Cape school, saying that there was a pass rate in 2015 of 2.2%. It then went up in 2016 to 14.6% of its grade 12 learners. Talk to us about some of the schools that you have visited, you've seen, spoken to, and the conditions that these learners are in.
No, I can mention a few of those schools. Firstly, I will mention this school called Lot Mashiane in Northwest, in Maboloka. We've been in that school earlier, and that school is not in a conducive manner. Learners there, they are learning in a school with an open roof there. When it's raining, they have to bring umbrellas to school. Earlier this year when school reopened, some of the learners were learning under the tree, to show how the Department of Education careless about our learners. The learners in Marumo Akomu Mpela Marumo Secondary School in Limpopo, who never wrote them NSC examination last year due to climatological conditions. The Department of Education careless about this thing. And then we are again concerned about the schools that are closed, shut down by the Department of Education, violating the SASA Act. Remember in section 33 of the SASA Act, it says when the department closes down the school, they must engage with communities. But these people do as they wish. They go and shut down schools. Learners now don't have enough schools in Northwest. There are not enough schools in Limpopo. And then what they can say is to come here and say they are busy with ASIDI program. The ASIDI programs that they have set aside that they are building one school in Northwest. How big is Northwest? How many rural areas are in need of schools in Northwest? And all they can say is to say they are coming to build one school. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
They now I'm going to make this point again. They gave the learners of Gauteng tablets. They never monitored the safety of those learners. Learners are being attacked on a daily basis. Learners are getting killed of those tablets. They come here, they say nothing about that. There's something that we cannot embrace. They must speak again about this tender of tablets. Who's handling that tender? How did that person get that tender? Before they can speak highly of what they are doing, these people are exploiting our learners, and they must take the responsibilities of that.
Yeah, but there's Elijah, there are lots of things being said, and I think that we have to listen to what Kabelo is saying, because when it comes to rural schools, the conditions are not good and conducive for students to be learning, and you have to agree on that certain issue.
No, he's saying a whole lot of things. You see, the education sector is massive. We can sit here for 8 hours and talk about it, and at the end of it, we won't finish. So let's focus on some of the things that he's saying.
Yeah.
He has shown, I don't know whether it's ignorance or lack of understanding of how ASIDI works, for example. There are various ways in which school infrastructure is delivered in South Africa. The Department of Basic Education allocates money to provinces. Provinces are the ones that deliver on school infrastructure. Over and above that, the Department of Basic Education has a special program, the Accelerated School Infrastructure Delivery Initiative, through which we deliver schools. And here we focus specifically on schools that are built of mud, metal, and other inappropriate infrastructure. And through that program, we have since built over 170 brand new schools. That program does not work to address all the infrastructure challenges across the country, because the provinces are there to do that. Why we have one school in the Northwest is because it's only one school that qualifies for that. The rest, the province is taking care of that. I'm not sure if they have been to the province to ask the progress that that particular province has made as far as school infrastructure is concerned. As for the other conditions, yes, there is the education infrastructure grant which the provinces are running, and if you want to hold anyone accountable about the conditions of school, go to a province first, establish what they are doing to address all these challenges. So to sit here and talk about tablets and talk about all of these things, it's really not helping, because if you need more information about the tablet program, go to Gauteng, find out how that tender was administered. If there are any challenges, then you can make that public.
Yeah, talking about Gauteng, what about the fact that there's still about 20,000 learners who are not in school because of that online registration system?
No. It's not because of the online system. I think that's what we need to correct. The overcrowding or the huge demand for spaces in Gauteng was there even before the online system was there. That system was brought to streamline the admission process so that people are able to access schools online without having to go and sleep in queues around our schools, which is what people were doing before that. So what has since happened was that the MEC introduced a system to allow people from the comfort of their own spaces to send in an application in which you express your intention of enrolling your learner at a school in Gauteng. What it then did, it attracted more people who were even outside the province, who then came here because it was easy to apply for space in Gauteng, even when you're in another province. And that's what has since happened. And even in Gauteng, you then found parents who wanted to move from certain areas to others. And that system made it possible for you to apply to any school.
But I think
it's a system that has been successful, but it brought in unintended consequences. That's what we need to accept.
Then you can't really declare it a successful system.
It has been very successful. What has happened is that, in truth, the schools in Gauteng are not able to take everyone who's coming to enroll their children in Gauteng. And you will know, most of these people come from other provinces outside Gauteng. And we have an obligation to make sure that each and every learner who comes there to enroll in a school, we need to find space for them.
Yeah, but there's also the same situation in Rustenburg. I mean, there's an area called Gelo Park, and that's also a problem where a lot of students are looking for schools. So it's not necessarily just immune here in Gauteng.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that there's migration from rural areas to urban centers, and you can't stop people from doing that. When they move to a particular area, your obligation as Education Department is to make sure that each and every learner has space. So you need to work through the system, make sure that you allocate spaces for them, find a school where there's still space and send a learner there. But you also find parents refusing to go to schools where there's still spaces because they insist in certain schools.
Yeah. Kabela, let's wrap this up. We've run out of time, but when you talk about declaring war on the Department of Education, asking for the resignation of the Basic Education Minister as well, Angie Motshekga, what are your movements now? What are you going to be doing going forward?
No, let me first say, Leanne, this thing of online registration is an insult to the masses of the poor South Africans who are internet illiterate. It's an insult. And as Progressive Student Movement, when we say we're declaring war, we're coming all out with our forces to the Department of Basic Education. We're not saying that we're going to march. We're not going to say we're going to vandalize property, but we're going to deal with this in a legal manner. We're very intellectual, we're ideological, so we cannot fight physical battles here. We're going to ensure that we smear and we put the Department of Education to his corner. And then we're going to demand as Progressive Student Movement the resignation of MEC Kechepe, the resignation of MEC Lehari, and the resignation of Njimutsekhwa with immediate effect. Because those people are very useless, they are exploiting our learners, they are rendering the educational system of the country useless, led by a broken president of the country. So we're going to ensure that those people vamoose from our offices.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Some pertinent issues being raised there, but I think calling for the resignation of all of these people at this point is a bit of a tough one. But Elijah, final word?
Well, we're always open to engage anyone who has an axe to grind with us. We don't have a problem. We have a whole range of stakeholders in the sector. We talk every time. Our door is always open. In whatever manner that you want to challenge us, we're always there. We hide absolutely nothing. We expose our challenges. We expose our successes. Everything is available. We challenge people to send in an invite. We can sit down and talk. Yeah. And we'll be able to engage on whatever matters that they're going to raise. All
right, indeed. Well, let's just close this up. Actually, we can just focus for one more minute on the Gauteng issue, because I mean there are parents that are desperate to get their kids into school. What is going to happen? I mean, it's a serious situation. A lot of kids don't have a school to go to at this point. When are you hoping the situation will be resolved?
The district officials are working very hard, and every day they are allocating spaces to parents so they can take their children there. And we hope by the end of January, the Gauteng province will have made lots of progress. We don't want to give a long-term deadline because it will look like we don't care. But the reality of the situation is that we have many people who are still waiting, but we hope that all those people will be cleared, because at the end of the day, each and every learner needs to be in school, in class, and not missing any more of the tuition time.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Elijah, thank you for talking to us here on the program. Of course, Elijah Mhlangu is the spokesperson for the Basic Education Department. And then in our Pretoria studio, we were joined by Kabelo Ntekiso. He's the Secretary General of the Progressive Student Movement. Thank you very much for being our guest here on the program.